It's 11 games unbeaten for Exeter City. Can they make it 12? We're taking Park Life on the road as we head to Bradford. Coming up on today's show, we hear from the manager Matt Taylor, defender Pierce Sweeney, and we also catch up with the Exeter City Women from David Gribble. But first, let's take a look back at Exeter City's win in the FA Cup against AFC Fylde.
Here. It's a fine start they've had to their season. Horton, no way through for him, but it does break here for Jordan Hume, and that is the lead for the National League North leaders. Towards Matt Jay, and Jay's going to have a go. He's going to squeeze in the equalising goal. A fine finish. Here comes the corner kick. Hasn't yet been dealt with. Nodded back towards Hartridge to apply the finishing touch. It's a second goal in the space of 7 minutes for Exeter City to turn this tie around.
Someone's been bloked to you.
It's now time to hear from the man in the dugout. Here are manager Matt Taylor's thoughts ahead of the long trip north.
Lads have trained well this week. Some extra bodies out on a training pitch as well, which always gives a bit of added competition. And like I say, we certainly feel we've had a good couple of days preparation, and we'll train on the way up to Bradford tomorrow, and final bits and pieces. But a game and a fixture you always look forward to at the start of the season, and the way that they've come into form last couple of weeks and our form of late makes it feel like a big game this weekend.
On to Bradford themselves then. You mentioned it there, last couple of games they have found some form. Yes, they did play a non-league side, but a 7-0 win for them in the FA Cup is going to give them great confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of fixtures against non-league teams for league opposition over the weekend, and you saw how difficult some of those results were and difficult those games were. So a real sign of the times in terms of, looks like Bradford had turned the corner, found a system to get their good players on that pitch and get them gelling well. And they've certainly got goals in them. Southend the week before 3-0 and obviously 7-0 at the weekend. But our focus is ourselves. Our focus is on our preparation. We take into account the opposition, but we've got to try and stop them playing. A good surface, a big pitch, good place to play football, and two teams in relatively good form. So like I say, it feels like a big game. And at the start of the season, you look at certain fixtures, and Bradford's away is certainly one you look forward to. Such a shame the fans won't be there, because it's a great stadium to play in, and when the fans are there, they're the most vocal in the country in terms of home support, and our home away fans have always enjoyed travelling there, but we want to be successful this weekend, and we know we'll have to play well, we'll have to put our bodies on the line at times, but also use the ball well, something we're certainly working towards, so a game to look forward to.
Having surpassed 150 league appearances and closing in on 200 overall for Exeter City, here is defender Pierce Sweeney discussing what he expects from Saturday's game.
It's a pity the fans aren't here, because they would have probably had 10, 11,000 there, and it would have been another good experience to play at a decent ground with a good atmosphere. But listen, I think they're underachieving as to what they'd like. At the minute, they've picked up a little bit of form recently, and they've been competing well of late. So we're going to go to Bradford, respecting Bradford, but also confident in that we can win the game and keep us moving forward.
As a defender, you look at sides that have scored 10 goals in the last two games. Does that? I mean, I'm not sure how similar the side's going to be that you face, but I mean that must be something you can.
Yeah, it's always a stat or a threat you always look at, that the opposition team have scored a lot of goals in the last couple of games, but one of them games was the FA Cup game against a lower league team, so can't really, well, you can look into it, but you can't look into it much because they're a couple of leagues below us and whatever, so it'll give them confidence. I think our results at the weekend will give us confidence, and the last month of results can give us confidence. So it's going to be two good teams going head to head, and I'm confident enough that we can go there and do a pretty good job and take a good result home.
There was no midweek action for the first team this week, but the under-18s were on the pitch as they took on Cheltenham Town in the FA Youth Cup. Here are the best bits as they progressed to round 3.
The pitch, the ball's holding up at times, so yeah, it's very, very difficult. Like you've seen there, back line more ready there, Max Clark a good header, more ready to defend.
And that's an early goal from Cheltenham Town there, early ball, committed to the ball is
100%, yeah, winning those second balls, and on a night like this as well, is drawing in some fouls and being able to again sustain a little bit of territory high at the pitch. It's a lovely pass there for Michael Lilly, Ball in from Ellis.
Great delivery.
Yes!
There's Sonny Cox arriving. He scored once again. Great ball in from Ellis Johnson. Lovely little bit of play by Michael Lilly to slide him off the shoulder. First time cross into the central area, just inside the 6-yard box. And there's Sonny Cox rising to meet it. Firm header planted into the back of net. Exeter City level 1-1.
That's his routine after the warm-up. Hopefully we'll see him soon.
So with that in mind then, Brad, is that going to be a straight swap for Frank Lovett, or do you think there'll be a slight tactical adjustment? What a great first touch from Sonny Cox.
Get
Finish. I tell you what,
Sonny
wonderful
Cox.
first touch on his right foot from Sonny Cox to
Great
open his
finish.
body out and then curl
in.
it past the goalkeeper with his favoured left foot. And once again, Sonny Cox comes up trumps for a goal for Exeter City. So 32, Will Ramsey. Delivered into the near post.
Oh, Jack Arthur's
Punched
dealt with it.
away.
It's gone in.
And
It's 2-2.
second ball drops to that man Ebanks again, who's hit the target.
Yeah, it's been great great performance. Go on, Nelson.
Nelson 1v1 in that wide area again, gets a cross in. Once again, it beats it's got to beat the first man. Ellis retrieves the clearance and
Yes, get in!
What a lovely little bit of play from Ellis. And he finishes
Johnson.
really composed into that near post area. He certainly seems pleased with that.
Ellis Johnson scores 3-2, 2 minutes to play. Unbelievable finish from the fullback. Up the
Stepped
city.
onto the loose ball, didn't he? And was brave enough to take it past 2 players before slotting it into that near post past the goalkeeper really calmly.
And here are the thoughts of the under-18 coach, Jed Gribble, with his views on the game.
Great result. Performance has things we can improve on. That's for sure. But credit to the group because they found a way. They found a way last week, and they found a way to win another football match today. And you need those characteristics sometimes.
Let's talk about the first half, because that weather was just ridiculous, wasn't it? The rain in the first half.
Weather was tough. It was relentless, and it was continuous balls at our back line, and we had to stay in the game and deal with those. And we found a moment to get a goal, and we felt that going into the second half, if those conditions would settle and we had the weather in our favour, that we might be able to go on and win the game. And we were so close in normal time, but I had to do it the hard way again.
As you know, there's just 41 days until Christmas, and lockdown is the perfect opportunity to start buying your gifts for your friends and family. As you can see, I'm modelling the latest addition to the Exeter City Club shop, the Exeter City Christmas jumper, which are just £20, and they are on sale now on the club shop website and in store when we reopen as well. Now it's time to dig deep into the history books. Here is Will Barrett's look back at some classic encounters with Bradford.
Our match against Bradford this weekend will be only the 6th game between the two sides since the turn of the century. The first of these matchups came at Valley Parade in 2008 when a City side, featuring our very own Matt Taylor, were beaten 4-1 despite Matt Gill giving the Grecians the lead going into half-time. The return leg at St James Park saw City turn things around though, with a 1-0 win thanks to Dean Moxey's first half goal. And while the game left Paul Tisdale exhausted, it put City within touching distance of the promotion that would come just a few weeks later. Following our spell in League One, the next time the sides met was in 2012-13, when the Grecians did the double over the Bantams, winning 1-0 away from home and avenging that 4-1 defeat with a 4-1 victory of our own at the Park. Despite the double for City that season, it was Bradford's turn to clinch promotion, whilst they also went on a remarkable run all the way to the League Cup final that included a more than significant contribution from another centre-back with City and Bradford connections. Bradford's successes led to another gap in games between the two clubs and saw Nicky Lord join and play for both sides before we met up again last season in a game that saw 3 red cards and ended with a 2-0 victory for the hosts. Hopefully this season we can see another turnaround in the fortunes for the Grecians, and while it is not the most familiar of venues for us as a club, we'll be hoping that our trio with Bradford collections will return home with more fond memories of West Yorkshire.
You've heard from Pierce Sweeney on what he thinks about the game, but what does he think of his teammates? Here is teammates with Pierce Sweeney.
The funniest.
The funniest. I think Nicky Law has stepped up to the plate this year. Last year, he kind of went under the radar a bit with Lee Martin and Dean Moxey and stuff in there. But Nicky Law, he stepped up to the plate being the joker.
Who's the cleverest?
The cleverest. It's a tough question. I think MJ thinks he's a little brain box because he does a course on the side of football. I don't know what it is. And then Lewis Ward has a degree. So I reckon them two have a bit, and I think Nigel's quite clever as well. So them three would be be clever.
Who's the quickest?
Obviously you've got Randell who's a bit of a whipper. Joe Randall's quite quick, and believe it or not, Jake Taylor over 5 yards is, I think, the second quickest in the team. Anything over 5 yards, I think he just dies a death and just fades away. But Joe Randall and Josh Key's quick. So we've got a few quick players. I think the right hand side, Josh Key and Joe Randell Williams are quick.
Who's got the worst banter?
The worst banter? Lewis Ward. Yeah, just he'd play Star Wars on his phone, sits in the corner, and he's in the gym all the time. It's just, boring.
Who's the most competitive?
I think the most competitive. I am. I think I hate losing, or I hate being wrong. If we're sat in the bus and there's like a topic of conversation and I'm wrong, I just hate it. So I reckon I'm the most competitive.
Who's the most likely to be a millionaire?
Alex Fisher, because he is the tightest man alive. Doesn't put his hand in his pocket and nothing. So I reckon Alex Fisher has millions, or he will end up having millions.
That answers my next question then, because the next question was going to be who's the tightest.
Yeah, I think it's Fish, and I even think Fish will say he's the tightest.
At the opposite end of the scale, who's always splashing the cash?
Jake Taylor, the skipper, got married recently, and I think he saved a bit of money on his wedding because he didn't have many people there. So he always has deliveries to the training ground, whether it's clothes, his daughter's birthday presents, he says, but it's probably like pairs of socks and boxers and t-shirts and trousers. So he's always getting deliveries to the training ground.
I think even you got the boot from the wedding, didn't you?
Yeah, I wasn't even there. It's shambles, isn't it? How dare he?
Who is always looking in the mirror?
Matt J. We all know he's got a great head of hair, but you don't have to brush your hair 6 times a day, before training, after training, before a coach journey, middle of a coach journey. And he clips his nails in the change room at half time and files his nails at half time of a game. We were sat, where were we? What game was it? I think we might have been Carlisle, half time, a turnaround after their manager stopped speaking, and MJ sat there clipping his nails in the middle of half time. So there you go.
And he does his hair before going on camera as well.
He does his hair, I'd say, 12 times a day.
So my next two were who's got the worst hair and who's got the best hair. Is MJ either one of those?
Yeah, listen, MJ's got a grey head of hair. He's got nice thick hair. I think he could grow it even longer if he wanted to. Fish has got a ponytail. Randell's got a ponytail. Joe Randall's got long locks. Got a nice little fringe on him. The next one's quite tough. Obviously, we've got a few baldies in there. We've got Nigel, who's bald. We've got Caprice, who's bald. We've got Lawsy. To be fair, Lawsy's bald, but he kind of suits it. Parksy's hairline's struggling. Jake Taylor's hairline's borderline gone, and mine's not the best either. So there's a few in there that are struggling a little bit.
Finally, nice easy one. Who's your roommate on away day?
Jake Taylor's my roommate. They've been roomies for the last 4 years. To be honest with you, he doesn't offer a lot to the room. He'd be asleep at 9:30, 10 o'clock every night on a Friday. He does bring a few treats, a few sweets to the room. But other than that, he wakes me up at 7:30, 8 o'clock the next morning, brushing his teeth, having a shower, flushing the toilet, coughing, clearing his throat. So yeah, he's not the best roomie, but I can't be with anybody else really, can I?
It's only fair that he's been there longer.
Yeah.
Great stuff, Sweeney. Thank you very much.
No worries, mate. Appreciate it.
We are a team that like to play football. I think there are a lot of sort of speculation about women's football and what to expect and stuff, but I think you're not going to know until you come and watch. And I think we are a team that like to keep the ball and play with possession. We like to play out from the back, play football, build a nice build up play.
It's been a fine start to the season for the Exeter City Women, but unfortunately the new lockdown means they have had to pause their season for the time being. We caught up with David Gribble, who's provided an update.
They had a disappointing league loss against Chesham, so it was really important that they bounced back, and they had a qualifying game for the FA Cup first round against AEK, and they responded really well. 7-0 victory. And some really good goals, another good crowd, and it was a positive way to go out, as disappointing as it was for everything to get suspended.
The hat-trick for Emily too, good, I believe.
Yeah, that's right, hat-trick from left back, a rarity, but that was Emily had scored the week before, scored a really good goal the week before, so 4 in 2 for her. So if anybody didn't want the season suspended, it was probably her, to be honest.
Disappointed not to see the phrase Emily Freagood used on Twitter.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, to be honest. I'm going to steal that.
You're saying attendances have picked up as well. I mean, that's testament to the hard work that you guys have been putting in at the moment, I think, too.
Yeah, there's been I think there's been a really good response. Obviously the aim this season is to try and get the team a bit more out into the open, and there's been a really good response. After the previous week when they'd lost 9-3, crowds can sometimes be a bit reactive to performances, but I think everybody saw that despite the result, the team play a really good, open, attractive game. Always try and get the ball down, pass it around, and even though they'd lost that game, the scoreline was a bit deceptive. I mean, they'd certainly played some good attacking football on the day, and it was good to see so many of those people come back the following week, and if anything, the crowd was a little bit up again.
What you guaranteed with the Exeter City Women is, a lot of goals per game at the moment, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. 12 the week before, 7 in the cup victory. So, it's worth £3 of anybody's money, that's for sure.
I guess we should also mention maybe the sponsors that have been supporting the team this year as well. I mean, it's been really good to see, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's been a few companies that have started to come forward and get themselves involved. It's been nice to see that, and we want more and more companies to get involved and to put their names to the women's team, and that'll only help it develop and grow over the next 12 months. And I think that's that's everybody's ambition, really.
There's going to be plenty of opportunity to get involved, and you're looking at things like sponsorship of games and player of the match, player of the season, that kind of thing, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We started our first Player of the Month poll in at the end of October, which was won by Esme Kilburn-Thompson. And we also want to get game sponsors and other commercial aspects to the women's setup, and I think if we can grow that and get more local companies involved, then it will be beneficial for everybody.
And what kind of response have you had from the players themselves with regards to the kind of stuff you're trying to do on social media?
Yeah, it's been really good. I think it's anybody who's not put in front of a camera for the first time or sort of is given the opportunity to kind of put themselves out there, I think there's either a reluctance or a real embracing of it. So I think we've kind of had a mixture of the two, but I think the team can certainly see that in giving the team more publicity, that there's been a response from the crowd, and they're now playing in front of bigger attendances and things like that, and I think they're starting to see the benefit of the work that we're doing. So yeah, I think it's been a really good response.
This is the substitute, Alex Fisher! And they've pickpocketed them here. It's Joel Randall, and it
comes out here for a fine effort and a fine goal from Harry Kite. Pressure off the ball from the visitors. Now there's another chance here to find the equaliser, and this time it is tucked in by Matt J.
As ever, we love hearing from the Exeter City supporters, and now it's time to hear from one, Jed Penberthy, who's been assisting us in the media team this season. He's giving his thoughts on the game ahead.
Jed, thanks for joining us. You've been, I believe you're a lifelong City fan, but you've been helping out with the media team this year. I mean, how have you found that?
Oh, it's been brilliant. It's been, well, it ties in quite well with my university course, and like I say, I'm grateful for the opportunity that you guys have given me, and like I say, the writing that I've done for the oppositions and the classic encounters for the games that I went to when I watched it the first time round. It's bringing back quite a lot of memories, and well, it's brilliant for me, really.
What's your City supporting story been, really? I mean, when did you first start going to games?
Right, back in the conference, Dad took me to my first game, was Farnborough away, I believe, 2003-04 season, I believe.
What a place to start as well.
Yes, I think you're saying people who support Man United and Arsenal and saying they can't have their first games. And like I say, I was living in Reading at the time, and back in that season in the conference, we had teams like Aldershot, Farnborough, Crawley, all within touching distance of Reading. So Dad said, "Well, I don't want him supporting Reading, so I'll take him to a City game." Took me to Farnborough. It was a 2-1 loss, I believe. Yeah, and games that I've been to when I was a wee nipper is St Albans away, when it absolutely lashed it down all weekend. And we were driving up the M25, and we were going past places like Watford and the Premier League and the Championship teams, and they were all getting called off. And there was still no news on the St Albans game. We got there, and I think Dino scored a last-minute winner or something. Brilliant.
Those kind of games that stick out in your mind, I think, as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I think I first went to... So when we first moved down to Devon, about 2007, I think the first game that I went to at St James's Park was probably Torquay at home in the conference. I think it might have been the 4-3.
Was that the boxing?
I think that was the... Yeah, I think so. Yeah. In fact, it was. And we sat in the stagecoach stand for some reason. I say I've been in the Big Bank ever since, and I'd say it's best stand in the world, I think.
Is that something that you miss, with the way the world is at the moment as well, not being able to get there on a Saturday if you're free?
Definitely so. I mean, even last season, I'm living up in Sheffield now because of university, but even last season when I was coming down, the first thing I'd say to Dad is I'm popping off up the park, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I'm coming with." And we'd standing in the top left corner of the Big Bank. That's where we'd stand with all our mates there, and it's home from home, I would say.
Absolutely. I mean, what have been your fondest memories of the last few seasons, would you say?
Fondest memories last few seasons? Well, I'd say playoffs, the semi-finals at least. I think last season was a bit of a write-off, but even I'd say that was our first real experience watching Exeter on the telly. Was watching the playoffs last season, because since we moved back down, we've been to all the games that we have been on telly. So, like I say, playoff semi-finals, they stand out more than anything. I didn't manage to get down to Argyle last year, which was a big miss for me. But I think I love what Matt Taylor's done with the club since taking over from Tisdale. It's been a very good few years, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, the home form's been exceptional the last couple of years as well. And 1 defeat in a calendar year is not a bad record.
So I mean, I remember back in the Middle Ages of Tisdale, I suppose we couldn't buy a win at home. We couldn't buy a win at home, and let's say it improved in the last couple of years at Tisdale, and then now we're flying at home. I think it's the fortress, as the cliche would go. And like I say, 1 year, one less than a calendar year. Can't really argue with that, can you?
Absolutely. I mean, have you been watching any of the games on iFollow or anything from Sheffield?
Yes, I have. It's been brilliant. I probably would be watching them on iFollow anyway. The away games that you can watch on iFollow. I think the service is really good. It links really well with Radio Devon, and it's not the best substitute for actually being there, but it's the best of a worst case scenario. And anyone that hasn't bought iFollow yet, I would say definitely. I mean, the money goes to the club, and you get to watch your team. And what's £10 when you would spend £30 on the day? So you don't get the match day experience, but at least you can still support your club from home.
Absolutely. I mean, and you're going to be one of the lucky ones that makes the trip to Valley Parade on Saturday to help with the coverage of the game. I mean, you must be really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I feel a bit guilty because I know there are other Grecian fans that have been supporting them for 30 years and having to watch it on telly now, and I feel privileged in a way, and I feel very, very lucky, and I'm not going to let it get to my head, if you know what I mean. I'm very, very lucky. It's going to be difficult to keep my emotions to myself.
I mean, what are you expecting from that game? Last year's match at their place, I mean, couldn't have gone much worse, really, could it?
No, it couldn't.
2-0 defeat. I mean, some sloppy defending. It was not the best of days.
Yeah, but it was a good chicken bolty pie at half time, I suppose. That was one of the highlights. Yeah, last season we just come off the back of the Argyle win. I think we went into that game a little bit complacent. I mean, Jakey Taylor made a rash challenge, and I don't think Parksy deserved to be sent off. But sloppy play last season. I think this year it's a good time to play Bradford. I know they've just won 7-0 in the FA Cup, and that could be a blessing for them to refine their form. But the goals that they've conceded this season have been so sloppy, and we've been so good at getting opportunities in and around the box. I think any team that gets into the Bradford box are going to have a chance. So if we can keep playing like we have done so far this season, I think we should profit quite well.
I mean, they have to be coming into the game in confidence as well on the back of that 11-game unbeaten run too.
Yeah, I think Matt Taylor's done a very good job in making sure that the wins and there's a few draws in there, but you can't, if you're not conceding that many goals, you can't lose the game. I mean, it's not the 12 games that we done in 2016 or whenever it was, but it's 12 games where we've played well and we've ground out results when we needed to, and we've won results when we don't need to, so to speak. I mean, there's a few games that a draw is good enough. I say Southend we probably should have won, but since then we've beaten teams where in other years in the past we probably wouldn't have beaten them.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to put your knowledge to the test here because, I mean, you've written the piece on the opposition for this weekend. I mean, who should we be looking out for in the opposition?
Who did I even write? Well, I didn't write him in, but Clayton Donaldson scored a couple of goals last week. Billy Clark was the one that I wrote in this week, and he's got a hell of a left foot. He's not reached the heights that he has done at other clubs, but since signing this season, he's been the spearhead of the Bradford attack. So all the credit will go to Clayton Donaldson this season, but I think Billy Clark will be the one that the Exeter defenders should worry about the most, because if he's not scoring the goals, he is making them.
Just finally, I'm going to have to push you for a score prediction like we always do. How do you see it going?
3-1 City.
Confident?
Yes.
Confident result, yeah.
Maybe overly so.
Well, hopefully, that's what you'll be reporting on Saturday.
Yes, hopefully so.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, Scott. Have a good one, mate.
Thank you so much for joining us on Park Life this afternoon. As ever, the game is available to watch on iFollow for just £10. Make sure you pick up your match pass. Follow the game on social media and we'll have all the reaction after the game as well. Come on, City!